It's my August birthday anniversary celebration TBR. Aloha BookTube, and welcome to my birthday celebration TBR. I have a lot of books here, and I know I'm not going to get to them, so I can say there are piles of possibilities. But there are a few books that I plan to read for sure this August, which is my birthday month and my second anniversary on YouTube. The first book I just opened today, but I knew what it was because this is a book that I recognized who who sent it to me, where it came from, and it's a birthday present that I bought for myself. I saw this book featured on a Mighty Blaze's channel, and I'll have her information down below. And Alba from Seriela, a Puerto Rican booktuber, also was talking about the book on Instagram and on YouTube. And it's called A Woman of Endurance by Dahlma LLanos-Figueroa. And I knew that when I heard about this, which is regarding the Atlantic slave trade in the 19th century and dealing with Puerto Rico. In fact, it says here, Llanos-Figueroa's groundbreaking novel illuminates a little discussed aspect of history, the Puerto Rican Atlantic slave trade, witnessed through the experiences of Pola, an African captive used as a breeder to bear more slaves. And it says, A Woman of Endurance, set in 19th century Puerto Rican plantation society, follows Pola, a deeply spiritual African woman who is captured and later sold for the purpose of breeding future slaves. She loses her faith when the babies are taken away from her that has guided her, and becomes embittered and defensive. But it's ultimately, it says, a story of endurance and of healing. And the reason that I bought this for myself was, of course, this subject is dear to my heart because when I did my DNA a few years ago, I was surprised to find that all my great-grandmothers were of African descent. I'm talking about from my father's side because I'm half Puerto Rican. And so I know that this is part of my history as it is of most Puerto Ricans, because we're mixed with Spanish. Most people are mixed, not all, but most of the Taino Indians that were there, the Native Americans that were there, the Africans that were brought over as slaves, like Pola, mestizos. So everybody is kind of like mixed in Puerto Rico. And even though I thought of myself as more of a blanquita, which is a white Puerto Rican, it turns out that, I knew that my grandmother was very dark. But to find out that exactly what part of Africa my ancestors came from was very exciting to me. So I'm definitely going to read this book, and I think everyone should read it because it's not a subject that's known about. And this book has been compared to Beloved by Toni Morrison. So I haven't read that book yet, but if you've read it and liked it, maybe you'll like this book. So that's A Woman of Endurance. That's a for sure book on my TBR. So I wanted to read things that I really felt close to this month. So I'm going to take you through some books that some of them are going to be rereads, and some I just finished and I want to reread it right away. And this is one of them. It's Hotel du Lac by Anita Brookner. And this was made into a motion picture. It's supposed to be her most famous book. And it won the Booker Prize, by the way, and established her international reputation. So it's about the question, why love? So the protagonist goes to this hotel in Switzerland from England, and we don't know right away why she was sent there. She did something wrong, and the people around her sent her away, which sounded kind of weird to me at first. But slowly the story unfolds, and you find out why she is in this place in Switzerland with all these people at the end of the season. It's getting cold in Switzerland, and she meets a group of likewise sort of displaced people, and it's hilarious, really. I mean, her descriptions of the people and the characterizations of the people she meets were so lovely that I have to read it again right away. Not that it's a very, deep book. Well, it's deep in a different way. It's not dense, but it's deep. And, some people think that Anita Brookner was like anti-woman. In this book, she seems to be, to me, it's a very feminist book in a lot of ways. When you think of when this setting was, and how women were pitted against women, and how the men don't come off very well in this book at all. And I like the ending. I just love this book. And it had a few laugh out loud, funny incidents that I really want to read. The language is beautiful. The only bad thing about this book, if you can call it bad, Anita Brookner has her favorite words that she likes to use throughout the books, and they're not, they're a little bit, harder words that may make you think that she's being pretentious. But and she also uses French without translating it, which is, something that's done now, but maybe wasn't done then. So what if you have to look it up, I thought it was worth it. I mean, she uses French in almost every one of her books, and I've read. She's been a success for me, because I read 3 out of 4 of her books. I only DNF'd 1, and that even wasn't a hard DNF. Anyway, I really suggest that you read Hotel du Lac, because it's great, and I want to read it again, and I am going to read it again. Very similar to another book that I read is Anita Brookner's Strangers, and I talked about this, so I'm not going to go into this very deeply, but it's about a man who lives in England, and the solitary life he lives because of his personality and his not being able to communicate with people very well. And he's very self-conscious. And this made me think of another book, but I talked about it already. I have to bring it back to the library. I read it twice. I'm almost finished reading it again. So that's Anita Brookner again, and that's Strangers. A book that I'm not going to read again, but I wanted to talk about a little bit, was Kristin Hannah's The Four Winds, about the Dust Bowl in this case it was Texas, but most of us know the Dust Bowl after the Depression happened more in Oklahoma, but it actually was a lot of states, Alabama, and they all kind of went to California to escape, and it was a very sad situation. I gave this book, well, first of all, I liked it. It's large print. So I really maybe would have DNF'd this book if it hadn't been large print, which is not saying much. I'm not loving Kristin Hannah's writing. She's a very good researcher, and the storytelling, though, could have been improved in my estimation. But the history of it made me keep on writing, and I had to give it I was going to give it 4 stars just for the history, and then as I thought about it, maybe 3.5. But it was propulsive read, so I don't not recommend it. But so if you're into historical mystery, I think this is a winner. Now, a book that I want to read and I started is Hot Milk. It's a Man Booker Prize finalist by Deborah Levy. And it's about, from what, the premise is, it starts out in Mexico. I haven't read the whole, I've only started reading it. It has a lot of trigger warnings for me because it's about a mother-daughter relationship. And the first part of it made me think, actually, Anita Brookner's Hotel du Lac was also talking, not really going into the story of a mother-daughter relationship, but remembering her own, the main character's mother-daughter relationship. And I think that in both of these authors, there's a mother-daughter relationship in real life that's not too well. But anyway, in this book, I think the premise, I'm not going to just go read it. I'll tell you what I think it is because I heard about it a lot on BookTube. And the daughter goes to with the mother to Mexico. So it starts out in Mexico where the mother is seeking to be cured from some ailment. I'm not sure if it's cancer or some other ailment. And the first few pages really hooked me already. And the praise for it says it's gorgeous, it's great imagination, poetry of language, her way of finding the wonder in every day. And I like those kind of books. I like the wonder of every day. It doesn't have to be really plot heavy for me to like a book or love a book. So I'm excited to read Hot Milk by Deborah Levy. Another book that I'm reading that I talked about already as a buddy read with Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads is Alberta and Freedom. I'm really excited about reading this with Lindy. She's a former librarian, I think. Wonderful person, she loves crafts. She's just wonderful. She does dyes and through plants, and I'm learning so much about her. And I know plus she's a feminist and just a wonderful all-around person. So Cora Sandel's trilogy, Alberta and Freedom. The trilogy was Alberta and Jacob, Alberta and Freedom, this one, and Alberta Alone. So I loved the first book. I read it with Freddie at Sluggish Reader, and we both loved it. And now I'm reading this with Lindy. So definitely reading this. She hasn't gotten the book yet, but so what if it goes into September? But I'm gonna really enjoy that. Then my books, Women in Translation Month. I have 3 books here, and this one I read already, and I'm reading it again. It's Mieko Kawakami, All the Lovers in the Night. And I think I picked the wrong book to start out with. This is translated by, and I'm almost remembering, Sam Bett and David Boyd. And basically it's about a woman in Tokyo who also, like the strangers, has a hard time communicating, even to an extreme than the man and the stranger. I felt it was true to life in some ways because I said I lived in Japan, but I also know that this author is a poet, so I really need to read it again because what threw me off on this book the first time I read it was that it was, I began to get very frustrated with the main character. I wanted to say, get yourself together, but I don't think it was possible, for her to do that. But yeah, it was a propulsive read. I read it to the end, and I want to read it again to see if the language pulls me in more. And now I'm reading another one by Mieko Kawakami called Heaven, and this one has trigger warnings for bullying, and I have to take it very slow. I had to put it down many a time. It's about a boy who is bullied in Japan in school for having a lazy eye. And I have a lazy eye too. He had a more severe case, but not in the way bullied to the extreme that he's bullied. And then he meets a girl in his class who's also bullied, and they form a friendship. and they go to a place called Heaven, which is an actual place. I haven't read far enough to know, exactly what this book, the theme is, but I heard that it's more about, it's more of a philosophical book about not fighting back against the bullying, which I don't understand how that's coming about. But the boy so far is not, he's really being bullied terribly. I mean, it's just horrible, and yet he doesn't tell anybody, and he just he's just like accepting it. And it's a very, I heard it's going to make me cry, and I don't like to cry in books, but I am going to finish this. If not, well, it is a library book, so I guess I do have to finish it this month or else renew it. So, and both of these books were translated by the same translator. The third book in Women in Translation is called No Place to Lay One's Head by Francoise Frenkel. And this was translated from the French. It's a very interesting story by Stephanie Smee. And I think she's a Swedish translator. And I wrote down some things about the book that you might really find it really interesting. So, first of all, let me show you the book first, because it's it has sort of like a photo of, I think it's like a passport photo, and somebody just walking through the streets. So very little is known about Francoise Frenkel's life. She was born in Poland in 1889, and in 1921 set up the first French language bookshop in Berlin with her husband. In 1939, she returned to Paris, and after the German invasion the following year fled to occupied Vichy. After several years in hiding, she made a desperate attempt to cross the border in Switzerland. So she made it to Nice and died in Nice in 1975. So the amazing part is that the memoir was originally published in Geneva in 1945 and rediscovered in a flea market. Can you imagine? In 2010, and republished in the original French, and is now being translated in numerous languages. And Stephanie Smee is a translator of French adult and children's books into English. Her other languages include German, Italian, and Swedish. So I think it's a book about bookshops, which is another wonderful thing about this book. And this is a signed copy from Shakespeare and Company. So I didn't get this time. I must have gotten this the last time I was in Paris. I just noticed that it was a Shakespeare and Company book. Yeah, and it has the Shakespeare and Company stamp. So yeah, I need to read this sooner than later. So she opens this bookshop, and the dream lasts 2 decades, to have the first bookshop in Berlin. So it ends after police confiscations and the night of broken glass, as Jewish shops and businesses are smashed to pieces. And that's called Kristallnacht. So she flees to France, and she survives only because strangers risk their lives to protect her. And it's set against the romantic landscapes of southern France. So it's a heartbreaking tale of human cruelty and wonderful kindness. And yeah, I have to read this. I don't know if to be honest, I don't know if I want to read a Holocaust memoir in the month of my birthday, but it's definitely going to be read in the next 2 months. Okay, so what else do I have? Now here comes the fun books, and maybe the almost DNFs. This book I did buy in Shakespeare and Company, and yet I don't see the stamp. Now where is the stamp? Ah, here it is. I knew I bought it in Shakespeare and Company. And it's Lady in the Lake by Raymond Chandler, who is a famous detective novelist in the 20s. I'm pretty sure it's 20s and 30s. So it says, everything was quiet and sunny and calm. No cause for excitement whatever. It is only Marlowe finding another body. He does it rather well by now. Murderer Day Marlowe, they call him. So it sounds like a lot of fun, and I want to have fun this month. So that's one book that I'm reading. Another fun book that Kazin in Always Doing always has this author on her channel. It's Talia Hibbert's Take a Hint, Dani Brown. And I just love the cover. It's just so cute. And Talia Hibbert is a Black British author who lives in a bedroom full of books. And that sounds wonderful to me. So Dani Brown knows what she wants: professional success, academic renown, and an occasional roll in the hay to relieve all that career-driven tension. But romance? Been there, done that, burn the t-shirt. Romantic partners, whatever their gender, are a distraction at best and a drain at worst. So Dani asks the universe for the perfect friend with benefits, someone who knows the score and knows their way around the bedroom. When big brooding security guard Zafar Ansari rescues Dani from the workplace fire drill goes wrong, it's an obvious sign. And yeah, so this sounds like fun. Yeah, it has a lot of diverse characters, and yeah, I'm ready to read some romance, because I don't read romance, and yet this sounds just delightful. Okay, so what else do I have? Now to some presents that I received. This is Miss Reed, the first Tales from a Village School, and I think it's the Fair Acre series. And Gina, from Gina Stanier, sent me this book. So it's just a delightful, I've read most of the Fair Acre series, but I haven't read the first one yet. And it's just a cozy, a teacher in a village school, and I want to read it. Then I got a package from Blackwells, and Blackwells is becoming, if I don't want it right away, it's becoming a very reasonable place to get books. I haven't opened this. I slashed it open, but I haven't looked at what I bought. But I bought this quite a while ago, and I didn't open it. Oh my goodness, it's Barbara Pym, No Fond Return of Love. And this is a beautiful cover. One of her very best, comic, heartrending, brave, in short, like life itself. And the picture, the cover is really great. It looks like it takes place in a library. So what does it say about it? Dulcie Manswearing is always helping others, but never looks out for herself, especially in the realm of love. Her friend Viola is besotted by the alluring Dr. Aylwin Forbes, so surely it isn't prying if Dulcie helps things along. Aylwin, however, is smitten with Dulcie's pretty young niece, and perhaps Dulcie herself, however ridiculous it might be, falling just a little for Aylwin. Once life's little humiliations are played out, maybe love will be returned after all. So I heard this was a good book. I'm reading all of Barbara Pym, thanks to Sean of the Book Maniac, who turned me on to Barbara Pym, as well as Lil from Lil's Vintage World. So yay, this is going to be read for sure. So maybe this is another Barbara Pym. Let me see. Yay, double yay, A Glass of Blessings. And I think I bought this one because I think it's one of Sean's favorite Barbara Pyms. Yeah, so it's a beautiful cover. I mean, I don't think these are new. These are Virago Modern Classics. So what it says is that Wilmette Forsythe is well-dressed, well-looked after, suitably husbanded, good-looking and fairly young, but very bored. Her sober husband, Rodney, who works at the ministry, is slightly bolder and fatter than he once was. Wilmette would like to think she has changed rather less. Her interest wanders in the nearby church, where she can neglect her comfortable household in the more serious-minded company of 3 unmarried priests, and of course Piers Longbridge, a man of an unfathomably different character altogether. And if you know anything about Barbara Pym, she writes a lot about the church in England and how these women, if you read Excellent Women, how these women are all besotted with the curates and the priests. Anyway, I'm very much looking forward to reading that book. So what is left? Only one book, and I've talked about it already, but I found something that was a surprise at the end. So it was my ideal bookshelf, and I'm not going to talk about it because, like I said, I discussed it when I did my library sale haul. And what it is basically is about, they took people from all walks of life and they had them, you know, they illustrated their favorite bookshelves with their books. So you get like a lot of recommendations. But what I didn't know, and this was a surprise, I call it a birthday surprise, was at the end, you have your own ideal bookshelf to fill out. Isn't that wonderful? And you know, now that I've been 2 years on BookTube, I do have a lot of 5-star books. And maybe after this month is over, with all the wonderful books that I've was able to show you today, I'll be able to fill in my bookshelf and maybe many other bookshelves. So thank you for joining me for my birthday TBR for August and maybe other months to come. I hope you join me on BookTube and subscribe and like and comment and press the notification bell. And until my next video, I bid you all aloha oi.